Okay, so for our demo today, I'm just gonna kind of dive right into this. So what you're seeing first on my screen is gonna be our collaboration aspect of our platform, which is known as our map view. And so inside of our map view, you have what is known as a site view. And so a site view in Pivvot terms is a project to everyone else. So here at Pivvot, you're looking at our Pivot Aware site view. So this area that you're looking at right now is an area that I've chosen for a potential solar farm area, and we're just to the west of Savannah, Georgia. And so the first thing I did was I typed into my search panel over to the left-hand side of my screen an address in Savannah, Georgia. And this acts exactly like Google Maps, since Google Maps is our base map inside of our platform. So I went ahead, typed in that address, and I zoomed to this location. And so the first thing I want to do inside of this platform is I want to just have a very high level analysis of the general area that I'm looking at. So the way that I can do that is come over here to our layers flyout, and we're going to have our pivot layers down here. And our pivot layers are all the data sets that we have curated. And so I can come and I can start to turn on these layers and assess things such as NHD flow lines in these areas that I'm interested in, NHD water bodies. And I can even come down here and turn on the property parcels and really get an idea of the two different areas that I'm going to be potentially working in. And so what you're looking at right here are these two polygons that I have placed using our Aware tool. And our Aware tool is something that is enabled inside of the site view. And I just drop a geometry of my choice, so a point line or a polygon, and in this case, a polygon made sense. I went ahead and drew those two polygons onto my map. I named the locations, I set a buffer distance, and I determined what data sets that I want to report on. And so once I determined all these different aspects of my Aware project, I went ahead and submitted them into our system. And once I submit that Aware project, it'll take about 8 to 10 minutes to run. And all the results that I get back is every single data point that intersects and the information that intersects these two polygons. So after my project is complete running, I can come into my reporting console of my project. And again, you saw that I had those two different polygon locations. And so I can toggle on both of those locations, come over to my crossing summary comparison report, and start to really deep dive into this information and compare those two locations side by side. And for this example, I only use the two locations, but I can use an Aware project that just has one location, or I can make 10 if I'd like to, there's no limit. And so as I scroll down and look at all these different data sets that I could be interested in, I'm gonna go ahead and use property parcel as my example. So I can see in between my two different locations that I've chosen, one location I'm only dealing with 2 property parcels versus 20 in my other location. But I want to know more about these property parcels. And that's what I can do is come over to this detail report section. I can scroll down to my property parcel, select it, and then I can really see every single attribute of the different property parcels I could be dealing with. And again, I can even click on these, map them in the below map, and see exactly what parcel lies within which location. And so if I'm interested in sharing this information with other members of my team, I can go ahead and select either one of these records, and I can just download these into an Excel file and send on this information. So now that you've seen an Aware project kind of from a very high level beginning to end, we're now going to watch it in action and how I'm going to connect one of these locations into the grid. So I'm going to go back to my mapping portion of the platform. I'm going to go ahead and zoom back to my project area that I was in. I'm going to turn over to map view. It's a little bit easier on the eyes when we're drawing lines. And so I'm going to choose this location for my next Aware project. And so since I'm going to be placing lines to connect this to the grid, I'm first going to find the neighboring substation. So this point over here, this little yellow dot, is my substation symbology, so I can see that's my nearest one. And then I can see all of these existing power lines, which are these pink and orange lines. So again, I'm going to select my geometry that I want to use. I'm going to name my project. I'm going to name my first line, option 1, and I'm going to select the geometry. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my first line following this kind of main channel over to my substation. And I'll just double click when I'm finished with my first line. Here I can slide my buffer. And for this example, I'm just going to keep it as 1/10 of a mile. And then my little cogwheel is all the different data sets that I would like to report on. So for this example, I've taken every single one of my pivot layers and moved it over to the reporting data sets category. But again, if I only wanted to know about aquifers, I can just move over that single data set if I would like. So since I'm happy with those, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then now that I'm done with my first option, I'm going to save that first location, and I'm going to draw my second location now. So option 2, select my geometry, and we're going to go a little bit different pathway up here. So let's go up Pine Street and go this way to my substation. So again, now I have those 2 paths going to my substation, and I'm going to keep my 1/10 of a mile buffer on this one as well. Save that location, and I'm going to submit that project into our system. So again, that would take about 8 to 10 minutes to fully complete, but in that time, I can go ahead and, just like I did with the different solar locations, I can come into this reporting console, and I can start to really compare side by side those 2 different pathways and what's going to be the best fit for my company.